Next thing I know it, I have my son running to me, the older one, and a neighbor, or I guess a neighbor, I'm not sure, running alongside him saying, "Your son is stuck. Your son is stuck. The gate has gone over his foot and he's stuck." Hi, curious minds and headline hunters. Welcome to another edition of Talk, Listen, and Discuss. Today I'm going to be presenting a article that just came up today, at least on my feed it did. And while I don't know the influencers that they are talking about, I don't follow them, I do feel for them. And let me explain some of my story, my background, before I actually dive into the news that I'm going to share with you today. When, oh my goodness, it forever and a day, I was a single mom. And I was a very young, dumb, overworked, overthinking, extremely tired, frustrated, very immature single mother of three kids. This is before I met my now husband, and we have two additional kids together. And being a married mom, an older married mom, while tiring, still doesn't compare to when I was a single mother of three. Even though I was young, even though I probably had a little bit more pep in my step, it was a very trying time for all of us. And I will always reflect, especially during the summers, knowing how tired and absent-minded I was at the time and how immature I was at the time. I just don't even understand how I never found myself in a position of being a news story, from leaving my child into a hot car to my child accidentally drowning to my child just being in any kind of tragic, unfortunate situation. I can even think of a couple of times we had some close calls, with one being that we were just outside playing, and I started doing something around the yard while my kids are playing basketball, and there was some old tires stacked up on each other. My son, who was probably about 3 or 4 at the time, he was pretty young. He went in there. Well, the basketball ended up going into the stack of tires, and he went in there to get the basketball. He just reached in there, got it out, and then he came walking to me very hesitantly, and he goes, "Mom, I think there's a snake in there." And I started laughing. I was like, "Son, are you sure it's a snake? You don't think maybe it's like, I don't know, a hose?" And then I remember saying, "Or a worm, something," because they're young. You just don't know what they're seeing as a snake. So he goes, "No, I'm pretty sure it's a snake." So I walked over there with him, and lo and behold, not only was it a snake, it was a copperhead. Okay, a copperhead was in those tires, and I freaked out. I freaked out. I mean, could you imagine if that snake had bitten my son? It was one of those moments where something unfortunate, something tragic could have happened. I don't even know if it had bit him, if I would have even had the insight to understand that at the time. And it doesn't take long for a tragedy to turn into something even worse than that, something life-changing and heartbreaking. I can't even say the words. Another time was when I was moving into an apartment complex. And my boys at the time must have been about, I want to say 8 and 6 or something like that. And they wanted to go out and play. And I was busy moving. It was hot. It was the middle of summer. I was tired, frustrated. And I said, "Sure, go play." Not even thinking about where they were going to play. I had the apartment door open. There was a little patio, and there seemed like there was a nice little, bit of yard or grass or lawn, whatever you want to call it, out there for them to play. And that's probably, knowing myself at the time, that's probably what I thought would happen. Next thing I know it, I have my son running to me, the older one, and a neighbor, or I guess a neighbor, I'm not sure, running alongside him saying, "Your son is stuck. Your son is stuck. The gate has gone over his foot and he's stuck." And surely we were like real close to the entrance where the gate opens and the exit where the gate opens. So he had gone towards the exit side, and he somehow got his foot. They were near the gate, and the gate had closed on his foot or something like that. Either way, his foot was wedged under that gate and it wasn't coming out. And he was crying not because it hurt, but because he was scared. He just couldn't move. He couldn't get out of it. I'm I remember thinking at the time that I was hoping it wasn't like hurting him, but I remember because he had hand-me-downs, he had his shoes were big. So fortunately for that, he was wearing big shoes and the toe box was what was actually wedged underneath there. And now looking back in hindsight, I was so flustered. I wonder if it would have been as easy then to remove his foot out of there by just simply untying the shoes and bringing it out. I don't even know. I don't know what any of us were thinking at the time. We were just freaked out because here was this little boy with his foot wedged under the fence. And I remember when we pulled it out, it ended up being that it was more on the shoe than his foot. My the one of the neighbors of the apartment complex managers, somebody came out running and just gave it to me like, you should have been keeping watch on your kids, da 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 da. And though they were right, it was a very human mistake. So human, right? And I know, trust me, I think a lot of people would say that I'm a very worrywart when it comes to kids being near the road or outside. I try not to be because I was raised or we were outside playing in the middle of the road. We were calling out for cars, cars, and then we just like go to the side of the road, stuff like that. We used to ride our bikes anywhere. And now, of course, it's just not that way. And I was always worried about my kids. I remember if you ask my kids, they will tell you mom was always telling us to go play in the backyard, never play in the front. Or they'll tell you that I would tell them never get near a white van. Stay away from vans. Don't walk near any car door that's close to you. Just get as far away from doors as you can, car doors, truck doors, any vehicle doors, because people can easily, pull you in and take you. Things like that. So it's not like I was always flippant and just like laissez-faire. I just am human. You get flustered, you get overwhelmed, and you make a stupid decision. And just like that stupid decision that has no malintent can turn into a tragedy. So, this is where I'm coming from. When I saw this news article today, I was so conflicted because there's two reasons. One, I don't know the whole story. Two, I do want to trust law enforcement, although I have been known to be very untrustworthy of enforcement. And then three, because as a parent, I couldn't even imagine this tragedy happening to our family, and then on top of it, being subjected to such scrutiny and to legal actions. So many things. There's just so much conflict, and probably even more that I'm not even realizing and haven't been able to communicate. But let me go ahead and share this article. It is coming from the ArizonaFamily.com, and I actually will be sharing some of the video. And in that video, I'll give you the insight from another legal expert and why he believes this is happening. So first, I'm going to read you the article, and while I'm reading the article to you, I'll probably will give you some commentary just to kind of break it up. Okay. So the article comes from, again, the ArizonaFamily.com. The Chandler Police Department announced on Tuesday that it's recommending charges in the May drowning of a TikTok influencer's son. After completing their investigation, the detectives said they believe the boy's father, Emilie Kiser, should be charged with child abuse, a Class 4 felony. It will ultimately be up to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office whether to charge him or not. 3-year-old Trig Kiser was pulled out of his family's backyard swimming pool near Chandler Heights and Cooper Roads before 7 p.m. on May 12th. He died a week later at the hospital. I do remember this story. I remember it coming out in May, and I remember it being totally heartbreaking. I remember when they announced that they had found the boy in the pool, and then when they announced his passing a week later, I was not even expecting this kind of follow-up. And when I read it today, I was, again, conflicted, but really brokenhearted. I couldn't even imagine what was going through that family's mindset. But I will be honest with you, I do remember reading it at the time, thinking, oh, is this another influencer not paying attention or trying to create a segment and not paying attention, and the kid was the unfortunate victim of that kind of creation, that content creation. You can get very wrapped in it. Look, I'm just doing this, because I like to do this, and if it was happened to be successful, great. The odds are it won't be, but I'm okay just to do this and share it with my family and friends and give some insight to some things out there that I find entertaining or interesting, that kind of thing. But these are people that are doing it for a living. They eat, breathe, sleep it. It's on their mind 24/7. As anybody know who's a creative, they are always constantly thinking, creating, and trying to initiate how they're going to execute that. So I thought that could have been that. And I felt a little guilty thinking that, but at the same time, I was like, if it happens to be that, I'm going to be so upset. But at the same time, being a parent, haven't we all been distracted with things that probably shouldn't have taken priority at the time over our kids? I know I have. I'm very guilty of it. I'm guilty of it back then. I'm guilty of it now. And it's only by the grace of God that nothing tragic has happened to my children. And I'm very grateful for that. However, given that kind of compassion, we should give it back. We should give the benefit of the doubt. And I don't know if that's what's happening here. Again, let me read the article and then maybe we can together start deliberating what may or may not be happening here. Police didn't say why they thought the boy's father should be charged. What Chandler police is suggesting that they could prove that this young man essentially failed to perceive a substantial risk that the toddler could drown. Local defense attorney David Black told Arizona's family. Now, I have heard and read in certain cases where families that had pools didn't do what they should have done to make sure that the younger kids, for example, swim lessons, gates, locks, whatever that looks like, some kind of measure that would prevent the kids to be able to easily access the pool area and drown. I have seen where those kinds of cases have been out there and have been, I don't know if the people were fined, if they were jailed. I don't know what that looked like. I just remember reading about that. So if it was that, I don't know why they wouldn't come out and just say that. Look, they didn't take precautions. There was no gated. The pool wasn't gated. The patio door or any entrance to the pool wasn't locked. Things like that. The children didn't know how to swim, and I know that there's a lot of organizations out there that really want to prepare the families, the parents, especially on getting their kids, people who have pools, on getting the kids trained up to learn how to, at least if they fall in the pool, how to save themselves. For example, I know I wish I could remember it. There is a foundation where they teach the babies how to, when they fall in, just to go and float on their back, those kind of things. So maybe that's what they're discovering and not letting us know, or maybe there's something else, because it seems like something that is pretty foundational and they would be able to share that. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, you think there's something more to it? Let's read on. The mother of Trig and the man's wife, Emilie Henriksen, I hope I got that right. If not, Emilie Henriksen or Henriksen, who goes by Emilie Kiser, much easier, filed a lawsuit in late May to prevent the details of the family tragedy from becoming public. Now, let me go back one sentence up, because what I failed to mention is that local defense attorney David Black, he is the one whose video I'm going to go share some of that dialogue with you. He is not connected with the case. He's just a legal expert that they're having him put his, give his input on what he thinks could be happening. He did mention that the prosecutors will need to prove that the dad was negligent. If it is done recklessly, it's a class 3 felony. If it's done with criminal negligence, it's a class 4 felony. Black said it's hard to answer most questions about the charges because of the lack of details, because of the lack of information. The attorney, the legal expert, says that most questions about the charges can't be really answered because there's such a lack of details. We just simply don't have enough information. Well, I will say, though, is that I do know that this came about because the police have completed their investigation, and the investigators have come out and said, look, we have enough here. We believe we have a compelling case on why the husband should be brought to charges. And that is really what I would like to have more clarity on. Why do they believe this? In the clips I'm about to show you, the legal expert believes why he thinks it could be happening, as well as the correspondent who is sharing this story with us from the local Arizona news TV station. And I think that they're compelling reasons.
It would be more serious if they were suggesting that he consciously was aware of the risk and disregarded it. It would be more serious, in my opinion, if alcohol were involved. My guess is that whatever he was doing wasn't particularly reckless, or risky, but instead is just tragic.
The fact that Emily and Brady are in the public eye has created a lot of publicity around what would otherwise likely be a low profile tragedy. Black says in his career, he's never seen police post potential charges on social media like this.
I mean, my personal opinion is they shouldn't charge. I mean, I have little kids. I can imagine the life sentence of losing a child, and this almost seems petty after the fact. But the reason to do this way is for publicity. I mean, somebody at Chandler said, we need to submit on this. There's a death, and too many kids are dying by drowning. Let's make an example of this person.
So, two reasons that both the correspondent as well as the legal expert have mentioned, I find could be the reasons that they are going to bring this dad to, or at least consider him for charges. Of course, I believe that they can bring the charges, but in order for it to go to trial, they have to go before the grand jury, and there has to be significant evidence or compelling case for the grand jury to want to bring it to trial. But when it comes to simply bringing up the charges, charging the dad, I think that there is two reasons. One, this is a very influential influencer. She's got the family, the mother who I believe drives, again, I don't follow them, but from what I've read, it seems that the mother is the one that drives the content creation, does the planning, and then involves the family in it. It seems like that they're wanting to make sure that because they have such a big profile platform, that they use it in order to educate the public more, meaning there's just simply too many deaths of kids by drowning, accidental drowning, that this may be the public service announcement that is needed in order to get people to become more cautious, to be more aware of the danger, and to start preparing and preparing against or preventing that type of disaster from happening, that tragedy. And then two, there is something in that investigation that we don't know about. And that once it comes to light, it may show us that, yes, there was some negligence there. There was some criminal negligence there, that maybe we want to go ahead and take this to trial because this could have not only been prevented, but it was something very nefarious going on. Now, I don't like to go there, everyone. It to me really is innocent until proven guilty. I try to fight against that prejudice all the time because I want to be fair to everyone. And I know that if I were innocent and I was in harm's way through the legal system, I would want people who even didn't know me to understand that they should see me as innocent before being proved guilty. To give you the kind of, I guess, to give you the kind of impact that we're working with here is that according to a search I did on Google, the Children's Safety Network, they state that 3,700 people die almost every year from unintentional drowning. And of those 3,700, 900 of them are children and adolescents from the ages of 0 to 19. I'm sure we could break it down even further, but it is those hot weather environments that see the most tragedies, that see the increases in tragedies, especially around the summertime. Florida consistently ranks as the number one states where they see these drownings. And I believe that, yes, Texas, California, and Arizona follow after. So this is, again, a reason, and a very compelling reason, why they could be using this family as the example for the public. Is it right? I'm not sure if it's right. Maybe they could have sat down with the family. Again, barring that there's nothing nefarious in the investigation, maybe they could have sat down with the family, let some time pass, let the grieving process, get to a place where it's manageable. If it even ever is, I couldn't even imagine. But talk to the family, and maybe the family could start a foundation, I mean, they have a huge platform right now. I think they have over 4 million um, followers on TikTok. They could use their platform to be the public service announcement. That tragedy is awful. It's terrible. And it's one I'm definitely thinking that they would want to honor their son by being advocates for. It is unfortunate, again, going back to the clip that I just shared with you, I share the same sentiments. I think the family's been they have been through enough. Again, I don't know, and none of us know, except for those that are involved in the immediate investigation, what could be going on there. But I'm going to give a benefit of the doubt for now. The dad says, the mom went to go have a girls' night out. The dad was home with the kids. The newborn needed extra attention, and the little boy was outside playing. The dad just was away from his boy from a few moments. He was away from the 3-year-old Trig just for a few minutes, he says, 3 to 5 minutes. And that was enough for the boy to have fallen in the pool and to have, to start it drowning. They were able to take him to the hospital after that, and he had a week of life support, some kind of support. I don't know the whole story there either. But again, the dad said that it was just for a brief moment that he was not with his son. And that is why, as a parent, I think we could all be able to relate to that, because how many times have we just taken our focus off our kids for a few minutes? And luckily for some of us, most of us, it has been something as simple as a knee scrape or a fall or just a cut, something more treatable than falling into a pool and bringing us to a situation where it's full of anguish, heartbreak, regret, remorse. And then on top of that, if we should have that media scrutiny on top of that, that would be terrible. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are. This wasn't what I was preparing for today. I actually was preparing a sports segment because there's a lot of good sports stories out there. And I love to share my sports stories, but also I am still working on that William Kennedy Smith expose. Every time I think I'm ready to start editing it and get it out to you, I'm going to try not to be too perfect with it because I don't want it to drag on too long, but I feel it's not there yet. And I want it to be presented very well. I want it to be fair, and I want it to be something that when it's shared, you do have enough information to infer. And I don't want it to come across as so celebrity and salacious. I want it to also be as much informative as well as compelling entertainment. Thank you for watching this episode of Talk, Listen, and Discuss. I'm your hostess, Carolina Little. Please come back and visit me. And if you would like to entertain my little channel, I would be so happy. Just remember to subscribe, like, and comment. And I want to make sure that you're getting those notifications. So when I drop content, you're the first to see it, and let me know what you think. Y'all have a good day. God bless you. Bye.